The American Civil War is often remembered as a conflict between the North and South, a struggle over slavery states' rights and the future of a young nation. But behind the familiar headlines lies a deeper story, a story of political ambition, shocking brutality, moral courage, and the transformation of the United States forever. This is not just a war about battlefields. It is a war about ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances, a war that shaped the very meaning of freedom and democracy today on empires unearthed. We uncover the real story of the American Civil War, a conflict that left more than 600,000 dead, a war that nearly shattered the United States, and a war whose impact still echoes in American society today. To understand why the Civil War began, we must return to the early 19th century. America was expanding westward. New states joined the Union. But an urgent question followed every new territory. Would it allow slavery or forbid it? The North industrialized rapidly. Factories, railroads, and immigrant labor fueled its economic rise. The South remained agricultural. Its wealth depended on cotton, and cotton depended on enslaved labor. To systems, to visions, to America's growing further apart each year, political compromises tried to delay the inevitable. The Missouri Compromise, the Compromise of 1850, the Kansas-Nebraska Act, each attempt only deepened the divide. Then came a moment that changed everything: the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860. Southern leaders believed Lincoln would end slavery. Within weeks, several Southern states seceded. They formed the Confederate States of America, a separate country in defiance of the Union. For the first time in American history, the nation stood on the edge of complete collapse. The real spark of war came on April 12, 1861. When Confederate artillery opened fire on Fort Sumter, the shockwave rippled across the country. Civil war had begun. Both sides believed the war would last only a few months. They were wrong. The first major battle at Bull Run shattered illusions. Crowds of civilians watched, expecting entertainment. Instead, they witnessed chaos and death. The Union Army fell back in confusion. The Confederacy celebrated, but both sides realized how unprepared they truly were as the war intensified. New leaders emerged: Robert E. Lee, brilliant and daring; Thomas Stonewall Jackson, fearless and unbreakable; Ulysses S. Grant, determined, relentless, unstoppable. Battles like Shiloh, Antietam, and Fredericksburg introduced the world to industrial warfare: rifled muskets, railroads, telegraphs, and ironclads turned the Civil War into the first modern conflict. At Antietam, more than 23,000 men fell in a single day. It remains the bloodiest day in American history. Meanwhile, enslaved people across the South saw a chance for liberation. Thousands fled to Union lines. Others resisted quietly, spreading intelligence, joining the fight, and weakening the Confederate economy. The war was no longer just a political struggle. It became a battle for human freedom. By 1863, President Lincoln understood the truth: the war could not be won without redefining its purpose. He issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring all enslaved people in Confederate territory free. It was a revolutionary act. It transformed the war into a moral struggle. It damaged the Confederacy's labor force, and it opened the door for nearly 200,000 black soldiers to join the Union Army. The turning point came at the Battle of Gettysburg. 3 days of brutal fighting, 50,000 casualties. It ended Lee's attempt to invade the North and marked the beginning of the Confederacy's decline. Soon after, Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address, a short speech, but one that redefined the meaning of American democracy, a government of the people. By the people, for the people, the war was no longer about preserving the Union. It was about giving it new life. As the war dragged on, Union forces adopted a strategy of total war. General Grant hammered Lee's army in Virginia, while General William Tecumseh Sherman marched through Georgia, destroying railroads, factories, and supply lines. Sherman's march to the sea devastated the Confederate heartland. It broke morale, cut off resources, and hastened the end. Meanwhile, Southern civilians suffered greatly: food shortages, rampant inflation, cities in ruins, and the Confederacy's political structure collapsing. On April 9, 1865, Lee surrendered to Grant at Appomattox courthouse. Confederate resistance soon ended. The United States was reunited, but at a terrible cost. More Americans died in the Civil War than in World War I and World War II combined. Families torn apart, communities destroyed, and a nation struggling to rebuild. The end of the fighting was not the end of the struggle. The United States now faced a new question: how to rebuild a shattered nation. Reconstruction tried to restore the South and protect the rights of formerly enslaved people. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments changed the Constitution, forever ending slavery, granting citizenship, and protecting the right to vote. But progress met resistance, violence, racism, and political conflict. Groups like the Ku Klux Klan terrorized black communities. Southern states created Jim Crow laws, and segregation took hold for nearly a century. The Civil War ended slavery, but it did not end the fight for equality. Even today, debates about race, democracy, freedom, and national identity trace their roots back to this conflict. The Civil War continues to shape American life, its memory a reminder of both the nation's darkest hours and its capacity for reinvention. The American Civil War is more than a chapter in history. It is a reflection of the human struggle for justice, a tragedy born from division, and a testament to the enduring power of hope. From the ashes of war, a new America emerged, an America still striving to fulfill its promise of liberty for all. This is the real story of the American Civil War, a story of conflict, courage, sacrifice, and transformation.